You live in a world that feels, most of the time, indifferent. Not hostile, indifferent. The universe does not know your name. The bad things that happen are not punishments. The good things that happen are not rewards. Things happen because forces produce them, and the forces do not have opinions about you. This is the modern scientific worldview in its emotional form. It is accurate as far as it goes, and it produces in the people who have absorbed it fully a specific quality of loneliness that they rarely name directly. The loneliness of the person who believes they are a conscious being in an unconscious universe, a mind floating in mindlessness, a self that cares embedded in a cosmos that does not. Chrysippus of Soli, the 3rd century BC Greek philosopher who is, after Zeno and Cleanthes, the founder of Stoicism in its systematic form, and who, without his work, the tradition would not have survived, said this picture is wrong. Not comfortingly wrong, philosophically wrong. The universe is not a machine. It is a living, rational, self-organizing whole, permeated by a divine intelligence that the Stoics called the Logos, or Zeus, or Pneuma, or Providence. The cosmos is not indifferent to reason. It is reason. And the human being, whose defining capacity is rationality, is not a mind floating in mindlessness. It is a fragment of the cosmic mind, temporarily individuated, always participating in the rational order that constitutes everything. You are not alone in an indifferent universe. You are a thread of the universe's own self-awareness. And what follows from this, practically, daily, in the actual texture of how you move through the world, is the whole of what Chrysippus spent his life working out. There is a philosophical move that the modern worldview makes so automatically that most people do not notice it as a move. It separates mind from matter. Consciousness is what brains produce. Reason is what certain biological systems do. The universe itself is the blind operation of physical laws that do not know they are laws and do not care what they produce. In this picture, the human experience of meaning, purpose, moral obligation, and belonging is a kind of overlay, produced by the brain, projected onto a reality that has no meaning, purpose, or belonging built into it. This picture has produced extraordinary science. It has also produced what the philosopher Charles Taylor called the Malaise of modernity. The specific, persistent, structurally produced sense that the universe is a stage without a script, and that the meaning you construct for your life is genuinely constructed rather than genuinely found. Chrysippus looked at the cosmos and reached a different conclusion. He looked at the extraordinary order of the natural world, the regularity of the seasons, the coherence of biological systems, the fact that everything from the movement of stars to the growth of plants follows patterns that reason can comprehend, and he asked, is this the behavior of a system that is merely mechanical, or is this the behavior of a system that is, in some sense, minded? His answer was unequivocal. The cosmos is a living being. It breathes, the pneuma, the divine breath, permeates and organizes all matter. It is rational. The logos, the rational principle, is not something imposed on the cosmos from outside, but the inner structure of what the cosmos is. And it is providential. It is organized not randomly, but in the direction of the good, toward what the Stoics called the telos, the end or purpose of rational existence. This is not the personal God of the Abrahamic traditions, the God who hears prayers and intervenes in individual lives. It is something both more impersonal and more intimate, the rational structure of reality itself, the intelligence built into the fabric of things, the logos that was there before the first human mind arose to recognize it.
Chrysippus of Soli was born around 280 BC in Soli, in what is now southern Turkey. He came to Athens and studied at the Stoa Poikila, the painted porch from which Stoicism takes its name, under Cleanthes, the second head of the Stoic school. When Cleanthes died around 232 BC, Chrysippus became the third head of the school and the person responsible for developing Stoicism from a promising philosophical tendency into a rigorous, comprehensive philosophical system. He was extraordinarily prolific. Ancient sources credit him with more than 700 works, covering logic, physics, ethics, and psychology. Almost nothing survives in complete form. We know his philosophy primarily through quotations in later authors, especially Diogenes Laertius, Plutarch, Cicero, and the later Stoics Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius. But from these fragments and quotations, scholars have been able to reconstruct what is arguably the most architecturally complete philosophical system in the ancient world before Aristotle's. His contribution to Stoic logic was foundational. He developed propositional logic and the theory of signs at a level of sophistication that was not surpassed until the 19th century. His contribution to Stoic physics, the doctrine of the pneuma, the logos, the conflagration and renewal of the cosmos, established the metaphysical foundation on which the Stoic ethics was built. And his contribution to Stoic ethics, the detailed working out of what it means to live in accordance with nature and reason, gave subsequent Stoics the framework within which Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius operated.
There is a saying in antiquity, if there had been no Chrysippus, there would have been no Stoa. The tradition he received was a sketch. What he left behind was an architecture. The philosophy. Two ideas from Chrysippus that, taken seriously, change the relationship between the self and the cosmos it inhabits. The first is the doctrine of the logos. The logos, rationality, reason, the principle of order, is not, for Chrysippus, something that human beings possess as a special endowment in an otherwise irrational world. It is the fundamental nature of reality. The cosmos is organized by the logos the way a living organism is organized by its vital principle. Everything that exists participates in the logos. Everything that happens according to the logos. The human capacity for reason is not a peculiarity of one species. It is the cosmos's own rationality appearing in individuated form. The practical implication is enormous. If reason is not your private property, but your participation in the cosmic order, then the exercise of reason is not merely useful. It is the specific, irreplaceable way in which you fulfill your nature as a fragment of the whole. The person who lives rationally, who examines their judgments, who acts from understanding rather than impulse, who aligns their choices with what reason recognizes as genuinely good, is not merely living well. They are the cosmos doing what the cosmos does through this particular fragment of itself. This is the Stoic basis for the concept of the sage, the person who has achieved perfect rationality, who acts always from understanding, who is never swept from the logos by passion or error. The sage is rare, perhaps non-existent in practice, but the sage is the direction. Every act of genuine rational reflection is a movement in that direction. Every choice made from understanding rather than impulse is the logos expressing itself more fully through you. The second idea is Providence, Pronoia. Chrysippus argued that the cosmos is not only rational but providential, organized toward the good. This is the claim that modern readers find hardest to receive because the evidence that immediately presents itself against it is so abundant. If the cosmos is organized toward the good, what explains the earthquake, the plague, the innocent person destroyed by forces they did not create and could not control? Chrysippus's answer is subtle and has been much debated. He distinguishes between what is good for the whole and what appears good from the perspective of the part. The individual who suffers from the earthquake is experiencing something that, from within the individual perspective, is straightforwardly bad.
From the perspective of the whole, the entire rational order of the cosmos, operating across all time and all space, the same event may be part of a pattern that reason, if it could see the whole, would recognize as ordered toward the good. This is not an argument that individual suffering does not matter. It is an argument that the individual perspective, however real and however legitimate, is not the whole perspective, and that the practice of accepting what cannot be changed, the Stoic amor fati, the love of fate, is not resignation, but the rational being's recognition of its own proper place in the whole.
Now the bridge. Because Chrysippus was a 3rd century BC Greek philosopher working within a specific cosmological framework, the pneuma, the logos, the conflagration, that most people today are not committed to as a literal description of the physical universe, but here is what translates. The loneliness of the mind in the mindless universe is not the only available picture. Chrysippus is offering a different one. The mind that is itself a fragment of the rational order of things. The person whose reason is not a private accident, but a participation in what reason is at the cosmic level. The self that, when it thinks clearly and acts well, is doing something that has a significance beyond the individual life, expressing, in however partial and imperfect a form, the rational principle that constitutes the universe itself. You do not have to accept the pneumac as a physical theory to take seriously the phenomenology it is pointing at. The experience of genuine understanding, the moment when something becomes clear, when the right action becomes obvious, when the mind apprehends what is actually true, this does not feel like a private biological event. It feels like contact with something real. Chrysippus is saying that feeling is not an illusion. What the mind touches when it reasons well is the structure of reality itself. And the structure of reality, in his understanding, is not indifferent to the mind that is touching it. It is what the mind is made of. Here is what Chrysippus asks of you, practically, today. First, practice reason as participation, not as tool. The modern understanding of reason is primarily instrumental. Reason is for solving problems, making decisions, achieving goals. The Chrysippian understanding is different. Reason is participation in the logos. When you reason well, when you examine a judgment honestly, when you trace the implications of a position carefully, when you ask what is actually true rather than what is convenient, you are not using a tool. You are doing what the cosmos does through you. Find one moment today, one decision, one examination of a belief, one honest look at a situation you have been managing rather than understanding, and bring to it the quality of attention that the logos deserves, not as a philosophical exercise, as the most natural thing a rational being can do. Think clearly about what is actually here.
Second, find the rational pattern in what seems merely random. Chrysippian Providence is not the claim that everything happens for a personal reason directed at you. It is the claim that the rational order is present even in what appears, from within the individual perspective, to be chaos or misfortune. Find one difficulty in your current life, one situation that feels arbitrary or unjust or simply unlucky, and spend 5 minutes looking for the pattern, not the consoling narrative, the actual, honest pattern. What does this situation share with other situations? What does it reveal about the nature of the thing, the person, the system it involves? What would reason say about it if reason could see more of the whole than the immediate pain allows? This is not the toxic positivity of everything happens for a reason. It is the Chrysippian practice of looking for the logos even in what resists it, and discovering, sometimes, that the resistance is in the perspective rather than in the reality. Third, act from the whole rather than the part. The Stoic ethics that Chrysippus built on his cosmology has one central instruction: live in accordance with nature. Not human nature in the parochial sense, the whole of nature, the rational order of the cosmos. The person who acts from the whole, who asks not only what this serves for me, but what this serves for the rational community of which I am a part, is expressing the logos through their choices. The person who acts only from the part, who can see no further than their own immediate interest, is not less rational than they could be. They are less themselves than they could be. Find one decision you are currently facing and expand the frame. Not just what this produces for me, but what this produces for the community, the relationship, the system I'm embedded in. The larger frame is not always determinative, but the practice of seeing from it, of being a fragment of the whole that is aware it is a fragment of the whole, is the Chrysippian life in its most available form. Fourth, hold your suffering in the larger context without dismissing it. This is the hardest and most important practical application of Chrysippian Providence. The suffering is real, the individual perspective is legitimate, and the individual perspective is not the whole perspective. Both of these are simultaneously true, and the practice of holding both, neither denying the suffering by collapsing into the cosmic view, nor losing the cosmic view in the immediacy of the suffering, is the specific, demanding, genuinely Stoic balance that Chrysippus's cosmology makes possible. When the difficult thing arrives today, the frustration, the loss, the circumstance that resists, try holding it twice. Once from inside it, where the pain is real and the disruption is genuine, and once from a step outside it, where the rational order of which this is a part becomes briefly, partially, imperfectly visible. Neither view cancels the other. Together, they constitute the Stoic response, fully present to what is happening and not entirely captured by it.
I want to close with the image that the Stoic cosmology keeps returning me to, not the logos as abstract principle, the fire. Chrysippus described the cosmos as periodically returning to fire, the Ekpyrosis, the great conflagration, and then regenerating itself from that fire into the same ordered world, the same rational structure, the same logos expressed in the same patterns, not as a cycle of despair, as the image of a universe whose identity is not located in any particular configuration, but in the rational principle that produces and reproduces every configuration. You are one configuration, temporary, specific, unrepeatable, and the logos that organized this particular configuration of matter into the reasoning, choosing, questioning self that you are, is the same logos that has organized every configuration, that will organize every configuration, that is the ground from which every mind that has ever wondered about the nature of things has wondered. When Chrysippus said, "The cosmos is a living, rational being," he was not proposing a theology. He was describing the experience of a mind that has recognized itself in the structure of what it is examining. The cosmos knows itself through you. Your reasoning is the cosmos's reasoning. Your questions are the cosmos's questions. The loneliness of the mind in the mindless universe is a misunderstanding of what the mind is and where it comes from. You are not a ghost in a machine. You are the machine knowing itself. And the knowing, this act of rational inquiry right now, is the cosmos alive in the only way it ever is, through the mind that thinks it clearly. Here is the question Chrysippus leaves us with today. When you reason well, when something becomes genuinely clear, when the right thing becomes genuinely visible, what does that feel like? Does it feel like a private biological event? Or does it feel like contact with something real that was there before you found it? Stay with that question, not to resolve it philosophically, to notice what the experience of genuine understanding actually is, because Chrysippus spent his life arguing that what it is participation, the fragment recognizing the whole, the part of the logos that is you, touching the logos that is everything. Leave that in the comments, because the question, held seriously, examined honestly, is the Chrysippian practice in miniature, the cosmos thinking about itself, through you, right now. I'll see you in the next one.